Arjun, just curious, what was that one thing, man, that just kept you going after 70 investors said no to you?
Look, it's not easy at all, right? We talk about where failure as a badge of honor on your sleeve, etc. All of that. This is all nice rhetoric, but it's easier said than done. I think for me, the purpose, and I think purpose for a founder is very important. If you just start a business because you're like, oh, it seems like a nice market, lots of investors are putting money, let me also do it. And the example is like Web3 and crypto for me, right? It was really exciting last year, everybody was talking about. I just didn't know enough about it. And so, could I have gone and started up in Web3 and raised money? Yes, but I don't know enough. There are better people at it than me, right? And so, I would say for me, the purpose was very deep.
Today we had Arjun Vaidya on the 1947 Operators podcast. Arjun is a D2C founder and investor. He built Dr. Vaidya's to India's largest Ayurveda brand online. Dr. Vaidya's was recently acquired by RP Sanjiv Goenka Group, making it one of India's first D2C exits. He now leads venture investing for V3 Ventures in India. In this pod, we covered what drove Arjun into angel investing, what was his first angel investment, what's his investing process like, how to build a brand, biggest learnings, V3 Ventures thesis in India, and much more. I learned a lot from this conversation, and I'm hoping you would too. All right. I am excited to have Arjun Vaidya on 1947 Operators. Arjun, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Shiva. Excited to be here, and yeah, it's been a while since we've done this. I remember doing it last time when it was audio only. So excited for the new avatar, and yeah, I love the what's the name of the monkey behind you?
Oh man, his name is Alfonso.
His name is Alfonso. Yeah, I remember that from last time.
He's gonna dive into the podcast, but towards the end of the
Okay,
podcast,
so we'll wait for
you'll
Alfonso.
hear from him.
Awesome.
All right, so we'll dive right into it. Arjun, what drove you into angel investing, and what was your first angel investment?
Yeah, so Shiva, I think for me, I had a journey where I didn't make a single investment, by the way, as a founder. I built Dr. Vedya's from scratch to one of India's largest Ayurveda brands online. We took it to exit in April 2021. And after I exited, actually, I didn't have any contacts. I'd never made an investment before, an early stage investment in a private company. But I was just, I didn't know what I was going to do next with my life. And so I just started helping founders pro bono. And what I realized is lots of these founders have existential problems that they need help with. And there are things I'd seen in my journey which I could have helped these founders with. Right? And so it started with just doing it pro bono. But when I was building my company, I didn't have access to as much mentor, advisor, or ecosystem as there is today. Right. And that's something I lacked when I started my business. And so, because I had some capital and there was genuinely value I could add, and I was really enjoying interacting with all of these founders, that's actually the reason I started investing. I started investing, I want to say early 2021. So, it's been about 2 years now. My first angel investment was a company called Bellora Cosmetics. It was a D2C brand. And the company has actually done pretty well. I think we
Yeah.
are now more than 80 investments in. But it's been an amazing journey, amazing ride. I think, other than the fact that I've been able to back some amazing founders, I've learned so much from them. I've increased my visibility across spaces. So, what started as just D2C and D2C enablement is now our 80 company portfolio across SaaS, FinTech, EdTech, Agri, Deep Tech, Space, environmental, clean tech across the board. And it's helped me become more knowledgeable and more empathetic as a person.
Love it. And Arjun, maybe you can walk us through your investing process. To in order to invest, you need capital. You should be able to source deals and have access to companies, meaning ability to get into the deals that you want to get in, and then the judgment. Maybe you
Yeah.
can walk us through the later three. First one, you have capital already.
Yeah, so I think capital we talked about. On access, actually, my view is that you need to be someone who genuinely builds relationships. Right? Shiva, this is maybe the 10th or 12th time we've spoken. If I just call you and say, hey Shiva, I hear you have good deal flow, help me, give me good deals, right? And I get messages like this all the time. Hey, if any good deals, let me know, right? You don't know me, you've never spoken to me, we don't have a relationship, we've never met in person. Like, there are 100 people I'll think of before you, right? And so I think the way to think about access is actually build relationships and add value when you don't need something. I am a pet peeve for me is being extremely transactional. While someone will ask me for help, I don't expect anything in return. But if someone genuinely builds a relationship with me and I build a relationship with them, that is very, very different, right? And so that's what I have been a proponent of even before I started investing. But it really helps, right? Go have that meal. Like every time I speak to you, say, let's have a meal when you're in Delhi. Go have that meal with no agenda. Go build that relationship. Get to know the person outside their investment portfolio. And then maybe you can do something together. And if you can't, it's okay. Right. So I think from an access perspective, that's my view or opinion. I would say from a getting into the right deals, that's access. But judgment, I think it gets better with time. So I have met more than 1,500 companies now, right? Maybe 2,000 companies now, over the last 2 years. And each time I meet a company, I now have some context, right, on what could go right or what could go wrong or who are the other companies in the space, etc. All of that. When I started, I was going in blind pretty much. I was like, oh, seems like a good founder. Let me just see what's happening, right? And the thing is, we live in a very large country with lots of people aspiring to be founders. And so I meet people on a daily basis who I love as people, but I can't back because if I wanted to back everyone I met, I would have had 1,000 investments, right? And I don't have the ability to manage or the capital to do 1,000 investments in a meaningful way, right?
Yep.
So my process is very simple with early stage investments. I look at three things. 50% of my weightage goes to the founder. Who is that person? Why do they have a right to win? And why will they fight through the tough times with grit and resilience? And I think the hallmark of a good founder for me is grit, right? Because I've seen my journey of 2.5 years getting absolutely nowhere, and then 2 years things just clicked, and we went from sort of 0 to 100, right? And so fighting through those 2.5 years is the most important skill because I could have given up 10 times or 15 times, right? So 50% founder. Second thing which I will talk about actually is something that is not talked about enough. And that's TAM or total addressable market. I was discussing this with a founder yesterday. We are all coming from a place of very elite way of thinking, very urban way of thinking, and a kind of consumption that doesn't reflect the rest of our country, right? And so a lot of times, like I am sugar free and gluten free, right? So a lot of times my thought process, sugar free and gluten free is just an example.
Yep.
My thought process or my consumption pattern may lead to something that I like, but may not necessarily lead to a good business. And
Yes.
so the example I love to give is Jimmy's Cocktails, right? It's a company I've invested in, but I've never in my life tried the product because I don't have sugar. Doesn't mean it's not a good investment. Doesn't mean it's not a good investment. But it's not something for me, right? It's a product which has great appeal. And so I got 50 people to try it before I made the investment. They all liked it. They all have sugar. Just because I am not a consumer doesn't mean I'm not an investor, and vice versa. Just because I'm a consumer doesn't mean I'm an investor. So in D2C, at least I see myself saying a lot of times, I'll be a customer, I'll buy the product, but I may not be an investor in the company, right? So you have to see something which from where you enter can really, really grow and not tap out. The
Yep.
worst thing you can do as an investor is invest in a company which doesn't have enough market size, and then the founder does whatever they can, but it taps out or plateaus because there's no customers left or addressable customers left for the problem, right? So that's 20%. And then the rest of the 30% is on what is pretty much standard, which is business, economics, revenue growth, growth velocity, gross margin, bottom line profile, customer acquisition cost, lifetime value of customers. And in this bucket, I would also add team because you cannot build something that can compound at scale without an empowered high quality team, right? And it's overwhelming for a founder in the early days to do everything yourself. The biggest learning for me was one, I can't do everything myself, and two, I'm not good at everything, right? And
Yep.
so the best decision I made while building Dr. Vaidya was to convince my fiance, who was my girlfriend first, to join the business and become a co-founder with me. complementary skill sets and sort of managing the burden together, right? And so, as part of business and economics, I would add team. So it's 50% founder, 20% addressable market, and then 30% business economics and team.
So, team, market, business, and team. If you have these three, reach out to Arjun. He'll open up your email. Arjun, what are the traits of a mediocre founder?
I would never use the word mediocre, honestly, because I was raw when I started, right? But I would say, what are the mistakes I made in the early days, which I learned from, and I had lots of when I pitched to 75 investors and I got zero who were interested in my business. I reflect now on where I went wrong, right? Number one, you don't know your numbers well enough, right? That's the biggest thing that I didn't know as well early on, and I got better and better as you go along. So you don't know your numbers. Number two, you're doing too many things, right? And so when did Dr. Vaidya's do well? When we actually said we're going to be a online only website focused Ayurveda brand, not a little bit of offline, little bit of GT, little bit of exports, little bit of B2B, little bit of my own website, little bit of marketplaces. No, got to pick that one channel and go deep. So don't do too many things, and it can be in sort of various ways, shapes, forms, etc. And the third thing I would say is someone who's not willing to listen to feedback, right? The worst kind of investment pitch is a monologue where only one person is talking. And I've been on pitches where you have a 45-minute block, the founder talks for 42 minutes and then says, hey, do you have any questions? It's only 3 minutes left in the timeline, right? So I think a monologue and someone who's not willing to accept feedback or listen to feedback. Look, feedback can be of all kinds. And when you are a founder and advice is free, people give you lots of advice. It's your job to disseminate that or distill that and then decide what makes sense to you and what doesn't. And a lot of things may not make sense, but some things will, right? And so you got to be humble enough to have that conversation, listen to it, reflect on it, and be a mirror to yourself. Or if you don't have a mirror, I wrote about this on LinkedIn a few days ago. Have that person who tells you how it is. When you think you're bad, they'll tell you, no, actually, this is not as bad as you think. And when you think you're really good, they bring you back down to earth. And that was my dad for me.
Yeah. And Arjun, just curious, what was that one thing, man, that just kept you going after 70 investors said no to you?
Look, it's not easy at all, right? We talk about wear failure as a badge of honor on your sleeve, etc. All of that. This is all nice rhetoric, but it's easier said than done. I think for me, the purpose, and I think purpose for a founder is very important. If you just start a business because you're like, oh, it seems like a nice market, lots of investors are putting money, let me also do it. And the example is like Web3 and crypto for me. Right? It was really exciting last year. Everybody was talking about. I just didn't know enough about it, and so could I have gone and started up in Web3 and raised money? Yes, but I don't know enough. There are better people at it than me, right? And so I would say for me, the purpose was very deep. The purpose was I grew up with asthma. My grandfather had cured me of asthma. This led to something really, really meaningful for me. And that meaningful change was being able to play cricket in life, but also have a normal life, right? And I made a promise to my grandfather I'll do something with his legacy. He passed. My last name is Vaidya, which means Ayurvedic doctor. And so that's the purpose that kept me going even through the toughest times. I remember I would get back from an investor meeting and be like, the guy didn't even listen to me. Like there was once a time when an investor literally. So I used to carry Shiva a box, large box with all my products, and I was entering this swanky building in Bombay, and the security wasn't letting me up with that box. It was a wooden box with all my products, and they were just weren't letting me in. And so I called the analyst or the associate, whoever it was at that fund, and he said, "Hey, they're not letting me up. Can you please help me?" And he was really annoyed, and he came down and he helped me. And the partner or the senior person in the fund literally laughed at me when I brought this box of products. And I felt really bad, right? Because he didn't listen to my pitch. He was on his phone the whole time. He sort of midway just rubbished a part of my pitch and then left the meeting. Right? And that's pretty disrespectful to a founder, honestly. Uh, and you come back from that and you come to your office and your team, like you got to continue like nothing happened. And you can't show your team that, hey, by the way, it's not going so well. And I remember at the end of the day, it was 9 p.m. and I literally, Trisha and I were the only ones left in the office. And I just looked at her and I said, like, what's wrong with us? Like, we're working really hard. It's a really exciting market. And I remember she said, just look on your right. And that was my great grandfather's chair. Right? And she said, that's the legacy we are taking forward. Just keep at it, it'll come. And then 6 months later, 7 months later, things turned out fine. But yeah, I think that's really tough. But you have to have a deep sense of purpose to get you through these times, because everybody will go through it. Shiva, we read about these unicorns, we read about these amazing funding rounds, we read about these IPOs, these exits, etc. All of that, uh, and we think, oh yeah, even I want to do something like that, right? But what we miss is the struggle, failure, grit, resilience, falling down and getting up that all of these people have gone through.
Love it, my man. You have to have the right purpose, and that will keep you going. And Arjun, you've done over 80 plus investments. Man, let's talk about some big wins and also some misses, meaning you had access to certain companies. For some reason, you didn't end up investing, but they ended up doing really good. And what were the learnings from them?
Yeah, so I think, look, I've invested in some exciting companies. I'll try to name a few that I'm very excited about. There is One Impression in the influencers economy. There is Go Quick, and ZFW and Conclo in the D2C enablement space. In D2C brands, we have Bellora, we have Jimmy's Cocktails, we have Vari, we have Perfora, all exciting sort of businesses. I'm an investor in Jar as well, in Goat Brand Lab, which has made some really exciting acquisitions. And there are a bunch more of companies. One Code is an exciting company which is
Yeah.
started by a friend, backed that company, and he's grown from strength to strength. Iki Foods is an exciting bet that Trisha actually took. Amazing founder and building something genuinely revolutionary. Pran is another exciting company in the clean tech space, which is building something in the outdoor air filter space that will really revolutionize the way that we look at this. So I think there's been lots of companies. There have been lots of misses as well, because yeah, how can you just hit everything, right? So I think a few that I can think of that I missed. Um, I missed investing in Zepto when it was Kirana Cart.
Yeah.
Uh,
How
Other
early
than I
was it?
just couldn't coordinate a time to speak. That's pretty much what happened, right? So I totally missed that, and I don't know what I could have done better. We just couldn't coordinate a time to speak. Uh, and then I really like Apna Mart as a company, and I was slow to react on that company. I spoke to the founder by the time I said I wanted to invest. He said the round is already closed. So I think those are two companies that are like, they're lots small, lots more misses. But look, I think we'll see, because we're in such a large country with so many good founders that you can't hit everything, right? And so it's fine. We'll get by as we get by. I think there's another company that I missed called XYXX in the innovation space, and I think the again, I didn't move fast enough, and also I was in this whole D2C craze, right? And I didn't value an offline business enough. So I think these few I've missed, but there are lots more that I've missed that I could go on and on talking about. I think what you need to do as a good investor is write these down. There is a note on my phone with all the misses and the reason for the misses. I discussed this openly with our team. We had a Vol Invest V3 strategy session at the end of the year, and I put up on the PowerPoint in my reflections for the year, these are the companies I missed, and these are why I missed them, what I'm going to do better next time. And these are the ones I did that I got to, and I did them well, etc. All of that. So you have to be brutally honest with yourself, but you can't be too hard on yourself for missing something, right? There are times when I'm like, how did I miss this deal? How did I miss this deal? You can't be everywhere. You can't do everything, and that's okay, right? You have to respect. You have to respect those misses and just figure out what you can do better.
And Arjun,
But
you
you,
have
but you know, Shiva, it's also like when you make a miss, right, and you see the company doing well, there's that inherent sense of FOMO, and that's okay to have that FOMO that you missed, right? So Vetic is a company that you've invested in, which I really like. I love the founder. I didn't get it connected in time. By the time I got connected to him, the round had closed. I tried to get my way in, but I couldn't get my way in, right? Uh, so FOMO is okay to tell yourself not to make the same mistake, but to make a wrong decision because you missed out on a previous investment, that's what A family friend of ours, Paula Mariwala, who's been investing for a very long time in the space, said to me, she said, don't make that mistake. Because when I decided to go into VC, I called people who have been in the industry for a long period of time and said, just tell me what I shouldn't do, or where I could go wrong. And this is one thing she told me which has stuck by me. Don't make a wrong decision because you missed something.
Love that one. Love that one. And Arjun, you've had an interesting journey from, being a founder, then operator, investor, now a full-time venture capitalist. Would love for you to, maybe talk about a few things about your journey and also about V3. How are you looking at India through V3? What sectors do you invest in? What stage and check sizes do you write?
Yeah, so I'm an accidental VC, Shiva. I never thought I'd be doing this, but I'm really excited about what I'm doing. The journey of Dr. Vaidya's is pretty well known, but we built this company and we sold in April 2021. The sale happened pretty quickly, and so I didn't have any idea what I was going to do then. I was 29 years old and I had to figure out the next leg of my journey. But the one thing I'll tell you, Shiva, is that there are two types of founders. There are those founders that um, build businesses but continue to want to build the same business like my dad, or will be fearful if they can't go to office every day. I knew I'd figure it out, right? I knew I was young enough, energetic enough, and there were enough other things I could do in the world. And so I started my journey as a community enabler first, with a genuinely altruistic to help kind of thought process mindset. I started giving 12 hours in my calendar to founders for free. No holds barred, no strings attached. Just, hey, you need some help, help me. This led to creation of a cohort based program in D2C with a platform called Growth School, where I'm an investor.
Yeah.
And I think from there, I realized that I can start investing. I started putting checks in companies, started getting acquainted with the space. And then through that, I serendipitously met Invest. It's a fund I'd heard of but never met, through a random connection on LinkedIn. And they said, hey, we want to start a VC strategy that's ex founder led. Would you be open to considering leading this for India, for us? And the idea of a global fund backed by a marquee private equity fund run by ex founders in India, US, and Europe was just something that I found so exciting. And we got to know each other over the next 2, 3 months. I said, look, I need to meet you guys in person as well. I can't decide the future of my career on Zoom. So I went to Spain. I spent time with the entire team, and that's what led to V3. V3 is a early stage VC fund that's backed by Invest. I run the strategy in India. We operate out of uh, the same office as Invest, so we have the sort of benefits of being part of a larger organization but still being autonomously run. And here we are looking at $1 to $5 million investments largely in the consumer space, but not just brands. We look at brands, tech, enablers, and platforms. And a specific thesis, Shiva, for me, is that we're looking at spaces where there is genuinely large TAM. And so we'll have a lean or a bend towards businesses that cater to the mass premium Bharat segment of consumers as well. And Cuckoo FM and another one we're going to do in the tech space are perfect examples of that.
Got it. Got it. And
And Shiva, that comes from my experience building Dr. Vaidya's, right?
yeah.
82% of my customers were outside the top 10 cities.
So Arjun, in venture investing, man, brand probably matters the most. And why? Because brand gives you the access, and access is again it's the ability to get into the deals that you want to get in. And for me, man, I've been in the venture space for a while in India, and I've been tracking a lot of smart investors. When it comes to building, when it comes to people who have built brand, you come to mind. You're on top of the list. If someone has to build a brand, what advice would you give that person? Maybe two, three
Yeah,
frameworks
yeah.
you have in mind.
Yeah, so like people ask me sometimes, hey, you are like, how do you get so much time to write on LinkedIn? Are you a VC or a creator, etc., all of that, right? Um, and I think it's our job to disseminate information if people gain value, right? So why do I write and share? Because people gain value, and I get so much feedback back that people gain value. Why did I do the podcast? Because I realized there was no content on D2C for a new founder to learn from. And so, if my advice on creating a brand for yourself or for your firm, one, be genuine. Don't just say stuff because it's trending or it's in vogue to say it, because you will get caught out. Two, genuinely help and not be transactional, right? So I don't just, if Shiva, you had to connect me to one of your portfolio founders where I'm not an investor and I could help, you would not think three times or five times to say, hey, what will Arjun gain out of it, right? And that's, I think, really important. And the third thing I would say is whatever you do when you're building a brand, be consistent. Because only when you are consistent can you compound. So I've started downloading all these apps, right, for parenting and for activities you can do with your baby and stuff. So I was watching a video yesterday, and while it was about parenting and some early childhood activities you can do, the founder of this app was in an intro video saying, if you do the same thing every day for 365 days,
Mm-hmm.
1 into 1 into 1 into 1 is equal to 1, right? If you do 1% worse each day, 1% worse each day,
Yeah.
you will be at 3% of 1. You will be at 0.03 or 97% worse.
Yeah.
And if you do 1% better each day, you'll be 37x of 1,
Yeah.
right? And so being consistent in whatever you do is critical, right?
Yeah.
And so if you ask me, what am I consistent with? On a sort of personal side, I'm consistent with my workouts and my fitness now, which I wasn't as a founder, and I really enjoy that. And from a work side, outside of doing my work on a daily basis, I will be consistently posting on LinkedIn 3 to 4 times a week on value adding content, and I'll do it every single week.
Just be authentic. Don't be transactional and be
Be
consistent.
consistent,
These are
correct?
the three ones. And all right, Alfonso. So he's asking Arjun, if money and attention are not needed anymore, what would you work on?
I would work for the Indian Tourism Ministry. I think that I'm a history buff. I studied politics in college. I didn't
Yeah.
study finance. I saw my first PNL when I was 21 and a half years old. I'm very passionate about India. I wear this band with the Indian flag on my hand. I think we have so much more to offer than a lot of countries, but we're
Yeah.
not doing a good job selling our story. Um, the experience of a tourist in India, of getting a SIM card, getting around this country, and the way we maintain our monuments and our history and our culture and our legacy, we can do much better.
Love it. And
Or I'd be a cricketer, but I'm not
or you
talented
play
enough.
cricket. Do you play cricket? You do, right? Or you
I,
you're
I don't play cricket as much anymore because it's not a workout at the level that we play. So I play more football now.
but at school you did?
That's cool. I was a
Correct.
captain of my
Yes, I
school.
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I play football now.
Got it. Money or power?
Soft power.
What's your relationship with money?
I'm not going to lie and say it's unimportant, but it's important to an extent. So I was having a chat with someone the other day, and they said, "Oh yeah, you made this large outcome, and you have all of this capital at this age. What are you going to do with it?" I said, "I pretty much bought my own house, and that's where it stopped. I don't have so many materialistic needs. It was important and a great feeling for me to move into my own home, but above that, I'm going to invest most of it back into the ecosystem."
And a founder that you admire and you haven't worked with, and why?
A founder that I admire but I haven't worked with. Yeah, Sanjeev Bikhchandani. He's the OG.
Yeah.
I haven't. I know him. I've spoken to him a few times, but he's the OG. I mean, he's the guy who did it before anyone else, right? So I have huge respect for him.
Got it. And what's your day like, Arjun? A typical day.
Yeah. So I wake up in the morning at 8 a.m. Between 7:30 and 8 a.m. I read for an hour on WhatsApp. I read various articles I've kept for reading, etc. All of that. I'll go and say hello to my baby now.
Now. Yeah.
And then 9 to 10, if I'm in Bombay, I'll work out. Usually, that's the
Yeah.
plan. And then from 10:30 onwards, my day starts. It's usually calls from 10:30, calls, meetings, or whatever I have to do for that day, from 10:30 to 8 p.m. And then from 8 p.m., it's dinner with family or with friends or maybe I've worked in and that's about it.
And Arjun, how much of your success would you attribute to luck?
Yeah, I have a view on this actually. Uh, you have to get lucky and you have to be there when that opportunity comes. But if you're not there every day, you can't get lucky, right? Because it can take you 10 days, 100 days, 1,000 days, or 10,000 days to get lucky. But you got to be there for those 10, 100, 10,000, or 1,000 days to catch your luck, right? And so being consistent and showing up every day to catch the moment that the luck comes is the way I look at it. You make your own luck.
Keep showing up. Either you'll find luck or luck will find you.
Correct.
With that, Arjun, I had so much fun. Thanks for doing it.
Thanks, Shiva. See you soon.